Welcome to Voice Bootcamp, a global name in unified communication. Hi, my name is Faisal Khan, Cisco Voice Instructor and founder of Voice Bootcamp. In this particular module, I'm going to discuss the call flow standalone model. In a standalone model is the most simplest form of functional deployment that CVP support. It provides organization with a standalone IVR solution for automated self-service application. A caller can access the CVP either from a local, long distance, or toll-free number terminating at the ingress gateway of CVP. Now, in order to deploy such solution, the components that are required are ingress gateway, voice gateway, CVP voice XML server, call studio, and operation console. Now, optional components are required if you're going to provide load balancing are CSS 11,000 series or ACE 4700 series. If you're going to provide text-to-speech or any sort of automatic speech recognition, then you will require third-party ASR TTS server as well as license as well. Now, a typical call flow within standalone is when a call arrives from PSTN, it will first come into the router ingress gateway, as you can see, step number 1. And step number 2, using the HTTP request, a request will be sent to the voice XML server. Now, the voice XML server will then process the request and send an XML document back to the gateway. Now, when you send back to the gateway, basically it's asking the gateway to do further rendering on that particular document. Now, when the call comes back in step 3, it means that the XML document is returned back to the gateway. At that moment, the gateway can communicate with an external device such as ASR or TTS if it requires text-to-speech, or it can communicate with a media server for further prompting. And either once that part is done, then the gateway will initiate an invite message to the communication manager, such as the call manager. And in step 6, call manager will then contact the agent, and once the agent answers the call, the communication will be between the agent phone and the voice XML gateway. An RTP session will be established in this scenario. Now, a standalone call flow with an ICM enterprise. So if you have an ICM enterprise, this is the following call flow that takes place. A call will arrive from PSTN into the voice gateway, which is known as the ingress gateway. The gateway will send a request for HTTP request to the voice XML server. Now, at this stage, the voice XML server will then initiate a route request to the call server or to the ICM via the call server. Now, once the ICM controller receives the request, it will execute a script, and at some point, using some sort of send to VRU component of the ICM, a label will be returned back to the call server. And in this case, label is usually the extension of the agent in this scenario. So a label is returned back to the call server IVR process. Call server will then send a request back to the VXML server. VXML server will process it and then send an HTML document return back to the gateway, ingress gateway. Now, what is returned back to the ingress gateway is a VXML document along with the label that was returned from an ICM enterprise. Now, when the call comes into the voice gateway or ingress gateway, the voice XML gateway, at that moment, it is up to the gateway to decide whether it requires connection with an ASR or TTS server if it requires speech or automated speech recognition, or contact the media server to play the prompt. If neither of them are required, at that moment, the gateway, ingress gateway, or the voice XML gateway will contact the communication manager, in this case, the call manager. Call manager will initiate a signal to the agent phone based on the label that was returned in step number 4. Agent will then answer the call, and RTP will be established between the agent and the voice XML gateway. In a standalone voice XML deployment model, a call can be transferred to another endpoint. In this type of environment, no IVR data can be passed to the new endpoint with this type of deployment. Since there is no agent stream, no data can be passed, so therefore no agent stream pop-off is available in this type of flow. This model supports the following type of transfer: a bridge transfer, a blind transfer, and release trunk transfer. Voice XML transfer are invoked using a transfer element of the call studio. So when you're developing an application, at some point in the application you will maybe say, okay, take this action to transfer the call. So such transfer element are part of the call studio program. You will use the drag and drop concept to initiate a transfer within the application. Now, release transfer are invoked by providing a specially formatted return value in a sub-dialog return element. When we do the development video, we will talk about some of this element. Agent transfer agent transfer from an agent phone are not supported in a standalone deployment. First of all, there is no agent to begin with anyway. Voice XML bridge transfer, on the other hand, the outcome of the transfer leg is submitted back to the CVP Voice XML server. In this scenario, the session will then resume, and further iteration of IVR call treatment and transfer can be performed if required. Now, only problem with this type of environment is that during the period of that time that call is being transferred, a port license is utilized with the bridge transfer. The blind transfer, the call remains connected between the ingress gateway, but the CVP does not have any method of providing any subsequent call control because it no longer controls the call. In the case of release transfer, the ingress gateway port will be released because the release transfer will be based on the trunk. So this is basically the overview of the standalone call flow model. The next chapter will focus on the other models such as the call director, VRU, and comprehensive.